You're listening to TV Ate My Dinner. My name is Sean, and I am sitting here with Brooks.
Good evening, or morning, afternoon, wherever you are.
Or whenever you're listening, we don't care. But good to have you. Hope you have a good one. But we're going to talk a little bit about... this is an episode I've been wanting to do now, because I think this is something that at face value sounds like it's not even worth an hour or a half an hour of time. But really, I think there's some gold here. This is going to be our non-Star Wars George Lucas tribute. And I mean non-Star Wars, I mean non-Indiana Jones. We take all those out of the mix, and let's look at the career that man has had in film.
You mean non-Harrison Ford, I guess.
The non-Harrison. Well, no, because we'll talk about American Graffiti.
Yeah, he was in
American Graffiti.
He was in American Graffiti.
But other than that, yes, once we take Ford out of the mix, he apparently was Lucas's rabbit foot. But before we get started on that, I have some updates. Apparently, these came from Greg, so I will relay them in his name since he's not here.
Is this Star Trek stuff?
This is the Star Trek stuff. I think it's important. We've started this. I think it's important that people hear it here first.
Yeah.
That people who
They're anxiously awaiting.
That people who don't have access to any other media will hear it here first.
All right.
But apparently they've rounded out the cast of this new Star Trek movie. And did you read any of this that he sent us?
Nope.
That Carl Urban is going to be Dr. McCoy.
Okay, who is that?
That is the guy from Pathfinder.
All right, what is that?
Doom movie.
Oh, that movie Pathfinder?
Yes.
Well, which guy in that though? Not the lead guy.
He's
surely.
the main guy.
Really?
The big muscular dude. He
How
used to
is
be in
that guy gonna
Hercules,
be
the legendary
McCoy?
journey.
He's kind of like a buff muscle guy, isn't he?
And he's from New Zealand. He's not even Southern. I was like,
wasn't he in Lord of the Rings?
Yes, he was.
Is he the guy that plays Eomer?
Hasselfin, Megafin, Arrowald. I don't know. All their names sound the same. Eomer's probably true.
Well, that's cool.
Yes.
I think he's a little too good looking to be McCoy, frankly, but a little too chiseled.
He's a little too cat-like, in my opinion. He probably stepped in there to go for the Kirk part and ended up walking out with McCoy.
Maybe a little too intense. You know what I mean? That guy's completely like an intense dude. Every time he's in anything.
I'm not a savage barbarian. I'm a doctor.
He was in Chronicles of Riddick as an intense bad guy. He's always the military intense dude.
He's always wearing some kind of crazy helmet. What kind of headgear are they gonna have for him as McCoy?
McCoy's haircut was kind of a crazy helmet, so I'll buy that.
Maybe they'll just make it out of some kind of like stork feathers or something.
But I guess McCoy's an intense kind of guy. He was hardly ever joking and stuff. He was always, damn it, Jim, kind of stuff. So,
but he was sort of that jokingly gruff, though. I mean, he was intense, but it wasn't like dramatic intensity.
Yeah, and he was older than the other guys. So I think this guy looks a little older than.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not giving him credit. Maybe he's got chops I haven't seen.
I'm sure he's a good actor. I mean, he was good in Lord of the Rings.
Well, he's good. That's not my issue. This just seems an odd casting.
I agree. That is odd.
I guess I could be sold on it. I won't turn. I could be sold, but he's in Doom.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So this is a step up for him because he has been a good actor in a series of crappy movies.
Well, he's been in Lord of the Rings. I mean, that alone. As a major character, not just like a side character.
Yeah, but a forgettable character, even so.
He hooks up with what's her face? I can't think of anyone's name.
Is it Aowen in that?
Yeah.
Is she Aowen? Yeah.
No, he doesn't hook up with her. Faramir hooks up with her. That's his sister.
Nothing.
Never mind.
Oh yeah.
Never mind. I'm sorry, guys. I blew my nerd alert there.
He gets nothing for his trouble. I made it even worse. He gets that hot. No, that was that other guy got the hot girl. Okay, never mind. Oh, but moving it along though, Bruce Greenwood is in the movie. He's just been cast.
Okay, who is that?
And what I think is, he was in a movie called 13 Days with Kevin Costner where he played JFK, but he used to be in a TV show called Nowhere Man when UPN first started out. And most recently, he was in a TV show on HBO called John from Cincinnati. He's been in a bunch of stuff. Like he's literally been around forever. Like you'd know him if you saw him.
He's been in a bunch of stuff that I've never heard of, apparently.
Well, having you on the show would be fine for, like, if we have any people's grandmothers listening, everything I say. Now, what's that movie? Who is this man? It's like, good God,
Who is this man?
Who this man, Kumar?
That's Applejack, dude.
Did you ever have anything to lose, man? That's what, I lost it, man. I totally lost it. You are the Kumar.
Yeah.
Who that man? That's Applejack.
I didn't know, man. What are you doing in the freezer? I didn't know, man.
A whole different thing. That's just going to be your new thing. Okay, now I know you've heard of Winona Ryder.
Okay, is she the chick in Beetlejuice? I'm just kidding. Of course I know who Winona Ryder is. I'm always down with the hot chicks. I know those it's the dudes that don't know.
Exactly.
Oh, is Winona Ryder in this movie?
She has just been she's just been cast as Spock's mom.
Really? A mom? She's not that old looking. Weird. Is she? She's got to be my age, she probably. Is.
No, I think she's older than us. I bet she's just over 40.
Really?
I don't think she's grossly older than us, but I think she's a little bit older.
I guess maybe Vulcan's aged differently or something. Or was his mom?
Well, she's not.
No,
his mom
was human,
is
right?
a human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't buy that.
Know. She must be skewing older, and he's skewing younger in these movies.
Are you telling me that Siler is Winona Ryder's kid?
Siler's mom.
No.
Yeah,
I don't buy
that's
that.
the way they're selling it. Here's something you'll like that I thought was cool. I've been so holding out for one casting on this movie to make me happy, and it's not happening so far, except Bruce Greenwood as Captain Pike. Now, you remember Captain Pike, right?
Yeah, from the pilot or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of cool. They're kind of going old school if the story in any way has that in it. But this other casting is Simon Pegg as Scotty.
All right.
And he's the dude from Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, okay. Now, which dude? Is that the
main dude?
The blonde guy?
Yeah.
Okay. The smart one. not the big dude.
Yes.
And he's Scotty. You know, I had heard a rumor about that
Scotty.
Before. I think someone had mentioned that to me.
I was actually excited about that because the rest of them are just good-looking kids, especially Carl Urban as McCoy makes you think, wow, they're going a certain way with this, and I'm not sure.
Sounds like they're taking
this is turning into a Dawson's Creek version of Star Trek.
Well, he's obviously going to be the...
Although Vanderbeek I actually like. They could have put Vanderbeek in this movie, and I would have been... I actually think he's a good actor.
I think that the Shaun of the Dead guy, I mean, that's obviously going to be the comic relief, I guess.
Well, I would have thought that you would find someone of that sort to be McCoy also.
Yeah.
But I guess you need a McCoy that can just bench press a truck.
I just can't believe Winona Ryder's in it. She's got to be the biggest name there, probably.
I know, which is sad because, usually they go for a big name for the villain, and the villain, who apparently is named Nero in the movie, is played by Eric Bana.
Oh, the Incredible Hulk guy?
Yeah.
He's a good actor. I like him.
He's a really good actor. I like him a lot, but I don't think of him as a big name when I think of them wanting a celebrity villain.
Yeah, that's true. He hasn't done a lot of big stuff.
He's probably the smallest name. Even F. Murray Abraham killed Mozart.
Interesting. So is that rounded out?
John Cho as Sulu.
All right.
He's the guy from the American Pie movies and those Harold and Kumar movies.
Okay. I can't believe they didn't pick Hero for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Warp 7.
We gave you gold on that. Oh, Zoe Saldana, we mentioned before, will be Uhura, and she's apparently in Pirates of the Caribbean. I've seen stills of her now, and I still don't really recognize her.
I remember her in the movie.
She looks very pretty, but I don't really remember. Of course, I don't remember that movie. I saw it like once, and it's been on USA 100 times, and I flip when it's on. So. Chekhov will be played by a kid named Anton Yelchin, who you'd recognize him if you saw him too. He was the kid who got kidnapped in that Alpha Dog movie with Justin Timberlake, and a movie called Charlie Bartlett.
I'm not in the habit of watching Justin Timberlake movies. Unlike yourself.
I do like Justin Timberlake. How did he not get the nod for Kirk? I don't even understand.
Well, that had brought a lot of girls into the theater, probably. So. I don't know, though. Did Alpha Dog bring any girls into the theater? I might be wrong about this.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe he's not selling it at all. Let's see. Although he did that Dick in a Box song, so he can't be all bad.
That's his saving grace, man. SNL can save so many people. I didn't like Lindsay Lohan until I saw her on SNL.
And Natalie Portman did that hardcore rap thing.
I liked Christina Aguilera when she was on SNL, too. She was funny.
I've liked her in lots of things.
I bet you have. Yeah, like Stuff, Maxim.
I like her spread.
What are the other ones? FHM, is that still around?
FHM.
For Him magazine.
Yeah, really. Oh, Lord. Okay. So I guess...
Well, I saw Planet Terror Sunday night.
All right, now, give me the skinny on Planet Terror.
Planet Terror is, in my mind, the complete opposite of the Death Proof, in that it is awesome in every conceivable way.
Really?
It's hard for me to imagine a cooler movie than this movie. Every step of the way, I'm like, oh, it'd be so cool. They just did it. Yes.
Awesome.
It's like he just picked my brain and said, what would make an awesome, cheesy, over-the-top action, funny zombie movie?
Well, good. So Rodriguez...
It's a zombie movie. What more can you ask
Well,
for?
Rodriguez kind of, I don't know, he kind of screwed up vampires, in my opinion. But I guess he treated vampires like zombies.
Sin City, he's been on fire.
Yeah, he really has. I think he went for a while. He's making those kids movies, and I was like, whatever happened to this guy? And then he made Once Upon a Time in Mexico, which I liked. Then he made Sin City, which was legitimately awesome. And now apparently he's just back. Good for him.
Yeah, because I really enjoyed this movie. It was funny. It was gross. It's just fun. It was a fun kind of thing. Whereas Death Proof, I found myself kept looking at my watch, going, "How far are we into this movie? I can't believe this movie's 2 hours long and we're only 20 minutes in."
This is the reason that I didn't go see these when they did it as a double feature, because I was afraid of that. It's like, what if it's lame and then you're there for like 4 hours watching two movies?
Yeah.
But if they'd split those movies up in the theater as they're doing on DVD, I bet they would have had a much better, turnaround. Which probably Planet Terror would have made a lot of money on the other one.
There's also a trailer on it. It's like a fake trailer because it's supposed to look like a double feature 70s kind of movie, so they have a fake trailer spliced in there for a thing called Machete. I wish so badly that they would make this movie.
That Machete is a real movie.
Yes, I would
I've
go see that.
I've seen stills and stuff, and I was wondering, what the hell is this? Because isn't it like Danny Trejo and just like an army of guys wielding machetes?
Yeah, it looks beyond awesome. And I really, if they made that movie, I'd be there.
Why don't they just do movies like that then? I don't understand why people, like as a joke, come up with these awesome ideas and then they make crappy movies on purpose. And then not big. I mean, I don't understand. Like when you have something that seems like a great
Planet Terror
idea.
was a great movie. So I think that he didn't make a crappy movie on this. And this is obviously a Rodriguez trailer because it's got the Trejo guy or whatever his name is in it. Who's in all the Rodriguez movies. It just looks like a Rodriguez movie,
Well, and he also loves cutting stuff together like that. Like that's how he sold Del Mariachi originally, is he cut together an awesome looking trailer.
Well, he sold me.
And people were like, if this movie doesn't work out, then at least there could be a future for you in trailer editing.
He has sold me on Machete. So if he wants to make that as another Grindhouse movie, I'm all about it. But Planet Terror was cool.
Awesome.
I actually liked Rose McGowan in it. I've never liked her before, so...
Well, that's cool. Well, maybe that'll
Willis
be a lesson
is
to them. Is like instead of you guys always trying to collaborate and make these disastrous movies, why don't you come up with good ideas and one of you go make a crappy movie and one of you go make a good one. You don't have to let the other one drag you down.
I don't know why they released the DVDs separately, so I'm not sure why they felt the need to pack them together in a theater.
Because they thought putting them together would have more power, and then they realized that they worked better separately, and that's why they released the DVDs separately.
Michael Biehn's in the movie.
Michael Biehn is in Planet Terror?
Yes, Michael Biehn's in it. A prominent role, too.
Oh, well, I'm sold right there. I am sold right there, man. I love Michael Biehn.
Fergie's in it.
Fergie.
Fergie gets eaten by zombies.
That's cool. I like both of that. I like Fergie and the
So I recommend it. I think you'll enjoy it.
Well, I'll get it.
I don't recommend the other one, but I do recommend this.
Well, I'll pick this one up. I might just go out and buy this one then and just Netflix Death Proof.
Because, Michael Biehn, we got to support him whenever you get to see him.
That is true. And Michael Biehn never disappoints. That's why I don't understand why he doesn't get more awesome roles. I mean, he's in The Terminator. He's in Tombstone.
Yeah, Aliens.
He's Johnny Ringo. Aliens. He's always in awesome movies. Yeah.
I'm going to look at his IMDb real quick. It got me curious now.
The Rock. Actually,
that's probably just about it.
Michael Biehn is great. He's like my hero. I don't know why. Even when he's a bad guy in movies, you still want to like him. And he's so intense and
gravelly. I've never heard of half the stuff he's been in. He's been in a bunch of stuff.
I'm gonna throw out I am gonna throw out the movie from the vault I was going to say in honor of Michael Biehn, and mention a Michael Biehn movie called Time Bomb. Movies from the vault.
Time Bomb. I see that right here, 1991.
I may be giving Time Bomb more credit than it deserves because I'm remembering it well, but basically, this is a movie where Michael Biehn is like some kind of sleeper agent, and he wakes up and ends up hooking up with Patsy Kensit, and then all these guys are trying to kill him. It's very like, Born Identity sort of movie, but it's some kind of government experiment gone awry, and you sort of buy it because he's in the Terminator, and if it's, he's just so intense. He's all wiry. He's like a little guy, really, but I mean, he's very tough looking.
Yeah,
Michael Biehn.
He's got a certain amount of grizzle to him.
He is Biehn.
It's all in the eyes, and that gravelly voice.
Yeah, everything. Goddamn well, I can't give that order. Just everything he says is just so ashy. But that's a good movie. I would recommend just because we started mentioning Michael Biehn. That's a good one, and it's a rare movie that fully stars him. He's in a bad habit of being like the main guy in a movie with a bunch of people in it.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen anything that just where he's the star.
And it's very weird because even like Terminator, you would imagine he's the lead man, but really that movie is about Linda Hamilton.
Yeah,
and her character. So he's still sort of a second fiddle. And in Tombstone, that's just a complete ensemble of awesome people.
And somehow in Terminator, Arnold's the one gets famous from it, even though he has like no lines.
Well, that's what you get when you just walk around. I'll be back. That's his line, where they invented that line where it actually meant something in context. But that's how you get to be famous on a movie like that.
Time Bomb.
Time Bomb. So check that out. Surely that's on DVD somewhere.
All right.
That looks like a DVD kind of movie.
Cool.
That'll be our nod to Michael Biehn. I guess we should talk on topic a little bit.
Lucas.
Yeah, don't let me leave this episode without doing a Johnny drama, but we'll save that because it's time for us to anoint another Johnny drama.
Yeah. It's been a while.
But it has been a while, and I think America constantly is crying out for new Johnny dramas. But there are no Johnny dramas in the George Lucas. if of all the weird actors and the spectrum of talented people from good to bad that he's worked with, Lucas has always, I don't know, he's always worked with people who were very good or somewhat forgettable after playing a particular role. So in that way, I don't think he's spawned any Johnny dramas that I can think of.
So I can't even think of that many George Lucas movies besides the big ones. I mean, there's obviously the American Graffiti. Everybody knows that one.
Yeah, and American Graffiti was actually his second film as a director,
right?
Feature film. If you look at IMDb, you find all this stuff I've never heard of and can't find anywhere, so I haven't even seen it, like documentary stuff he did, short films he made.
Oh, really?
If you buy the DVD of THX 1138, you can see the original short film it was based on, which is interesting.
Yeah, which is pretty bad.
But, well, I mean, for the time,
I guess on a student budget and stuff, yeah.
He was a very conceptual director too, which is weird because a lot of the Star Wars-y kind of stuff was very straightforward. But before Star Wars, there really is an argument to be made that Star Wars ruined what was an otherwise promising career for George Lucas as a film director. Because THX 1138 was very avant-garde, very weird, very experimental. And then American Graffiti was such, it was complete Americana. I mean, I think because he made Star Wars, I think people don't give George Lucas credit for how influential American Graffiti was as a film.
Yeah.
There'd be no Happy Days if it weren't for American Graffiti. I mean, the Happy Days stole everything from that movie.
Had Richie Cunningham.
They got Ron Howard from the movie. The Rock Around the Clock was the opening theme song of American Graffiti, and a lot of people don't remember when Happy Days first came out, that was the theme song of that TV show. And then later on, they developed their own TV show.
Yeah.
But when it first came out, Rock Around the Clock was the theme to Happy Days. I mean, and the time period and setting and the feel, obviously American Graffiti was a little bit more mature in what they were going with, but it was the same exact concept. This was back in a time where TV would just rip off a movie.
Yeah.
Just period. Like TV wasn't even an art form back then.
It's a good movie.
It is a good movie.
And I'm sure at the time it was very innovative because it doesn't really follow a single storyline. It just kind of meanders around all these different people's lives in that one night. It's got all this working music into the story so heavily. That's probably innovative for the time.
Which you see all the time now. In fact, you see the slice of life moments in the night of the lives of teenagers. There's been a million movies of that. You know, they incorporate music heavily into the story. I mean, Wolfman Jack is in American Graffiti, you know. That's how rooted they are in the music of the time as being important. But that's something that George Lucas has always been big about, you know. He really has elevated the importance of music and sound design in general in movies. And I think a lot of people take that for granted. But not just, I mean, Star Wars and its special effects conventions those weren't the only ways that Lucas was an innovator. But I think, you know, the stuff that he did outside of that got overshadowed. American Graffiti is, I think, a really important American movie. And I don't think because he went on to do Star Wars and because it's been emulated so many times, I don't think people realize how important that movie is. THX 1138, or I used to say 1138, but I guess people say 1138. I don't know. That movie was important as a failure.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I saw it in college or whatever. I didn't like it at all. I like it, but
it's, you know, it's very conceptuul.
Yeah, it just
it's very interesting,
cold and lifeless. I don't know if that's what he was going for.
Well, that was the point. That was the point. But the little 70s in its weirdness. Well, almost a lot of people have mentioned, you know, and he's made so many adventure movies that elevate these optimistic themes that it's weird. And a lot of the other smaller things he's done, it's been the opposite, you know, very bleak. So I don't know. Maybe that shows you where his audience is. He makes that stuff and no one watched it.
Yeah.
But what were some other? Really, after American Graffiti, he didn't direct another movie after Star Wars until he did more Star Wars movies. So all things considered, he didn't direct a movie after American Graffiti, because after that it was all Star Wars.
Yeah, and those were awful, as everyone knows. I mean, you could argue that he was
directorially speaking.
In Episode 1 in particular, he was trying to be innovative still. He was still trying to push the boundaries with I don't know. But it was in all the wrong directions.
Yeah, I think by then he lost sight of, because all of his films leading up to Star Wars were very small, and he did things using his limitations of those movies. And then after Star Wars, you know, he had to use his limitations in the first one, but then after that, once it was successful, he could do anything he wanted. And it was all about what can we do with the visual effects. And he's a very big proponent of not having effects drive a story, but I don't buy that. He failed in that goal.
He may talk the talk, but I don't buy that.
Well, I think he just got. I don't think it was about effects. I think it was about, we can do anything we want, and anybody given that option, they make crap, because you need limitations, you need boundaries. That's what builds character. That's what brings out who you really are. Once you take away those boundaries, all people make crap. All directors, once they get big, never make movies as good as the original movies. Bands are that way too. One album where they're really singing and starving reaches people, and then they try to whine in their second album. It's like, you're a millionaire, shut up.
Interesting.
I don't relate.
Interesting theory.
But I like that. That's why, I don't know. Film directors don't die in plane crashes as often, but that's what plane crashes are for when it comes to rock stars. It's like, let's keep these guys alive in the minds of their listeners forever. Kill them.
Film directors are never dramatic or interesting in that way.
Because they're not supposed to become famous. I think that's another tragedy of Lucas in his latter years, is that he as a person started to become famous. And I don't think, obviously, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that likes
I don't know. There's been a lot of
attention.
famous film directors over the years, recognizable, like Hitchcock and guys like that.
And they all get progressively worse once they become the story. They're better when they're in the background.
Tarantino's in every movie he's made, including Planet Terror. He's in that too.
And look how progressively worse they've gotten. because he's gotten so excited about himself in movies. He has become a caricature of himself. And M. Night Shyamalan, he appears in all his movies, and all his movies, the more famous he's gotten, how progressively worse these movies have gotten, because he gets hung up on, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, and never does the story matter after that. It's me, what could I do? How do I become more famous and richer? Never what do I do with the story?
Anyways,
they forget that that's their responsibility.
Anyways, back to Lucas. Where are we at?
So next we have Captain EO.
Captain EO?
Speaking of great, do you remember this? Well, he was an executive producer on it, and he wrote the story.
Is that Michael Jackson thing?
Yeah, they used to play it at Epcot it was a little 3D short film. I
didn't even know it had a story.
Well, it mostly doesn't. It's 20 minutes long, and they're flying around in a spaceship, and then they go see Angelica Houston, who's some kind of wicked queen, and Michael Jackson does a little song and dance, and the movie's over. Yeah. It's not really. It's like a big Pepsi commercial. Awesome. But it is of note to me, not just because Lucas was involved in it, but it was also directed by Francis Ford Coppola.
Really?
And was supposed to be directed by Spielberg, but he got into contractual obligations elsewhere.
Now, I had no idea any of those people were involved in that thing.
It's the only reason I mentioned it. It's not a good movie.
I wonder if they somehow put it under the rug, the fact that they were involved.
Oh, they don't play it at Epcot anymore, I'll tell you that. Ain't no Captain EO DVD IMAX production coming along. Another thing I mentioned before, so I won't mention it too much here, is in 1986 they actually did a Howard the Duck movie.
Yeah.
And George Lucas was the executive producer. The reason I mention this here, apparently he disowned the movie like everybody else, which disappoints me because I hate it when people disown their failures.
It's not listed on his thing?
It's listed there, but it's under the trivia it says that he disavows the movie.
How do you disavow a movie? Is that like a legal process? Or is he just saying, I'm embarrassed of it?
I wonder, obviously I don't think you can completely disown legally, but what I don't understand is how you disavow a movie like Howard the Duck. Like, you can portray that in any way, like it turned out any way different than what you imagined when you set out to make it. It's obviously what it is. And what kind of bothers me about it is Howard the Duck was written by Willard Huyck and Gloria Katz, who also wrote American Graffiti with Lucas. It's not like he just pulled some people out of nowhere. I think Willard Huyck directed this movie.
I've not even seen that movie, so I don't really know what the deal is with that.
Well, you're missing out, in my opinion.
I'm tired of hearing about guys, though, that they're done with the movie. It's finished. It's been edited. Music's been added. It's completely, the effects are on it. And then they watch it and go, yeah, this isn't what I wanted. It's like, man, how many steps along the way how many times have you seen this? When it was being edited, when it was being shot, when it was being written, when effects are being added to it. And every time you're like, oh, it's good. And when it's finally finished, that's when you decide it's not good.
Isn't your vision as a filmmaker, too, like, don't you read the script and get an idea for what the movie's going to be?
This seems weird that it doesn't occur to them till the very last instant that it's not good. They think it's going to be saved by the effects or saved by the editing somehow.
What's suspect to me is they never come to this realization until after the movie fails to make money.
Oh, yeah. Or
and
until
then it's like,
critics pan it. Then they're like, I didn't like it either.
That didn't turn out the way we wanted at all. Like, okay, whatever. Jackass.
Okay, anyway.
It's like, you got to love your flipper babies. All right? Everybody's got flipper babies. You gotta love them too. But speaking of flipper babies, this is one to me. Same year as Howard the Duck, George Lucas got together with Jim Henson and made a movie called Labyrinth.
Labyrinth, okay.
I did not know
Lucas had anything to do with that.
He was the executive producer of this film also.
Well,
he executive produced a ton of movies in the interim between the directing Star Wars and directing the next Star Wars.
So is he essentially an executive producer? Does they just sign the check, or do they actually have any creative input?
It can vary, but a lot of times, yeah, they're there in name only. Now, a lot of times, if you see Lucas involved in a movie, he won't just be executive producer. He has some kind of writing credit, usually a story credit. He's not a big screenwriter, as you may have picked up, but he is really good at coming up with an awesome story. And in the better movies, he comes up with a story
He's not good with the dialogue?
Yeah, are you sure?
Anakin, you're breaking my heart.
No, Lord. Yeah. Exactly.
The younglings?
Yeah, good Lord. You know, realize that the entire dramatic tone of that film would have been heightened to the nth degree if they had said, "You killed children."
Yeah.
But instead, the younglings? It's like, we have a clever name
cute
for
when Yoda
children.
calls them younglings, but it's not cute when other people call it that.
Well, because Yoda is a puppet and he has a funny way of talking already. You know, if everybody started like speaking all their sentences out of order too, like Yoda does. It's like, I'll say every sentence backward because it works for Yoda.
All right, okay. So Labyrinth is a good movie. I'll give him that.
I think it's okay.
Are we keeping score on the good and the bad here?
Well, I think if 1138 you came out against, I think it's okay. But
well, I wouldn't recommend it to anybody.
American Graffiti, I would recommend American Graffiti as an entertaining film and as an important movie too.
Yeah, no, so that is a good movie.
I think if anybody who likes the modern movies of today, especially all these teeny bopper, you think there'd be American Pie if there isn't, if there weren't American Graffiti. All these movies, and it was about that. You know, it wasn't about kids looking to get laid. It was about kids on the cusp of having to become adults and the way they were reacting to that.
Yeah.
So how many movies are there like that?
Dazed and Confused, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, very Dazed and Confused, especially when you think of, the whole thing taking place in a single night.
Yeah, and they're all driving around listening to the radio trying to find something to do.
An element that they created at that time that is just a convention. It's people don't even think of where that came from, like the wheel. Like nobody. It's something that everyone can remember has always been there. That convention. After Labyrinth, see, here's another good one. We were going to talk about this before, and this is the real reason I wanted to make this. Is movies like this. Is Willow.
No.
In
1988. I don't like Willow.
What's funny is I do like Willow, but I totally get what a misfire it is, because he really tried to recapture that Star Wars formula with a fantasy kind of movie. But it's very Star Wars-esque. It borrows very heavily from Lord of the Rings. It borrows, like, I remember Rex Reed was saying that it even steals from the Bible.
Yeah.
Like, there are even elements, where they put the baby in the river and to save it, and then he's adopted by the blah, blah, blah. But, Willow was cute and fun, but it just didn't have that Star Wars element.
That's what makes it such an interesting dichotomy of the two movies, Star Wars and Willow, is that you can really tell that he's recreating the same formula that made Star Wars work. He's taking elements from different things, like in Star Wars it was westerns, war movies, whatever, soap opera stuff. And then in Willow, it's the fantasy. He's stealing from Lord of the Rings. He's incorporating elements from different genres, mixing them together. It worked so well in Star Wars.
Well, I think because when you take samurai movies and westerns and make a sci-fi out of it, that's interesting. But when you make a fantasy movie and you're borrowing elements from already established fantasy stories, that's not innovative.
I guess he didn't
he's
mix
recycling elements.
It was
I don't think. And
enough.
Every character in literally every character in Willow relates exactly to a character from Star Wars. You got Kale, who's like the big general, is their Darth Vader. The witch Bavmorda is their emperor. There's Willow obviously is like the Luke Skywalker character, and he has sort of an Obi-Wan who teaches him a little and then sends him off to like this island to learn more from this master mystic who teaches him the final like stuff. And obviously you got Han Solo, kind of Mad Mardigan character, who's Val Kilmer. I mean, every way it's he falls in love with a princess who is actually a princess, and they hate each other at first. It's too close. Even the brownie characters who are the comic relief are the C-3PO and R2-D2,
and they're annoying
of the movie. I think they're funny. That's an early Kevin Pollak who became a big actor later. And Rick Overton did not become a big actor later, but he's been in a bunch of stuff. He's a real funny guy.
It's just funny that even as a kid, because I saw it in the theater, and even as a kid I didn't like it. And I had low standards. I was easy to amuse.
I liked it, but it suffered from that same stigma a lot of stuff did, which is everyone expected Willow was going to be the next Star Wars. Because it was big, George Lucas, Ron Howard directed this movie. A lot of big names were on this movie.
Do you think if Lucas had
directed
it, it'd have done better?
No, I don't think it was an issue of the directing at all. I think that as far as for the reasons we just cited, story-wise, it was somewhat uninspired. You know,
Yeah.
I think Willow should have been the template for him for what not to do in the Star Wars Episode 1, but he did it all over again in Star Wars Episode 1. He tried to recapture the same exact formula and count on that to carry the movie instead of coming up with something more original.
It almost makes you wonder if Star Wars, and I hate to go on and on about how much I like Star Wars. Everyone knows we like Star Wars, but
I know we're trying to do the non-Star Wars episode.
It makes you wonder if the original trilogy was somehow a special moment in time, and if the same thing had happened at any other time, it would have failed miserably. Because he keeps trying to redo things, and it keeps failing, but just at that one moment.
I think that was a time where a Star Wars was needed.
I don't mean just culturally. I just mean like they had Harrison Ford. They had the special effects had just been born. Everything that's what makes me mad.
When you make a movie like that, to assume that it's because you had it in you is sort of hubris, and I think you get punished for that. You do have to understand, yes, I had some good ideas, yes, I did a good thing, but also so many factors fell into place for me. Like, I don't think, from what I see about Lucas, I don't think he values, like, he understands that the fact that he got Harrison Ford in the movie and the cast that he had contributed to making the movie great. Like, I think he believes that if he were to make Star Wars tomorrow with different actors, that it would be probably better because he could do better special effects. And it's not that he doesn't appreciate good actors. He works with a lot of really good actors, but I get that sense. Like, he doesn't understand, how, we didn't have that much, so I designed Boba Fett's spaceship to look like the lamppost outside, and that became a moment of brilliance. He'd be thinking like, he thinks more like, man, if we had then the technology that we have now, we wouldn't have to be making things look like lampposts. Like, he doesn't get that those are where your moments of brilliance come from.
I'm surprised he never made an effort to involve Harrison Ford in some of the other projects, because obviously everything they did together was gold.
Well, I think,
Harrison Ford may not have wanted that.
What's strange is how many times they've worked together well. It was always by accident. He worked with Harrison Ford in American Graffiti, and then you think that, one thing led to another, and that's how he got to be doing Star Wars. It's like, no, like, Harrison Ford is actually doing like carpentry in the building where Lucas is auditioning people. Like, think of when you think of Harrison Ford as ungrateful, you have to put it in perspective of where it's like they made a movie together and Lucas is casting this movie and Harrison Ford is literally there like painting the walls or something. And he's like, Harrison, you've done some acting. Why don't you come read off these guys so we have a full cast?
Yeah, it wasn't even like they were wanting to cast him. They were just using him.
No, they just wanted him for like blocking. Like, so when you think about the lack of vision sometimes from script to screen, you have to imagine moments like that. It's like Lucas never looked at Harrison Ford and thought Han Solo. But then he's so obviously Han Solo, That's where you should be glad for those moments. Like, I'm glad fate stepped in where I was being a moron.
Yeah.
Like, Lucas's idea of C-3PO was that he was going to overdub like this New Jersey accent.
Yeah, like a car salesman or something.
And some guys like, look, you got this guy doing the voice, Anthony Daniels. That's C-3PO. Someone says that to him, and it's like, oh yeah, I guess so. But he didn't see it, and it was right there. So I don't know. He should be thankful of the circumstances that led to that kind of stuff.
That's why I say that it's almost like Star Wars was created by the universe, and he just happened to be there.
All great things are a happy accident. All great things are a happy accident. No matter, and that's not to discount that great minds go into them or a lot of talent go into them, but anybody that makes something great and thinks it's because they're great, I don't know. I don't think there's anything more arrogant than that. I don't think there's anything more egotistical than believing that to be true.
Besides,
you should always be thankful to the universe. Yeah, well,
that's all
I think this podcast is what it is. But I think when we say it's all us, it's because we're actually taking responsibility for what we've done. We're not taking credit.
Yeah.
I'd like to apologize to the universe for this podcast.
We're taking the blame.
Yeah, really. If it turns out to be awesome, then I'm fully prepared to commute all credit to the universe for that, because I don't see what my role is. But I think, with a guy like, and I'm not trying to say Lucas is egotistical. I don't know, but I get that feeling because it seems like when given the options to, when given the ability to do anything he wants without having to take input from other people, he opts not to have that input. And so many times you can see where that input was beneficial. I think that's, I don't know.
Yeah, I see.
To not want feedback because you want to retain control.
I see what you mean.
I think that's what's always contributed to, some of his movies. And I like the new Star Wars movies, but they're not nearly as good as the originals.
Well,
and that's why.
They don't have the magic.
Yeah, and that's where the magic comes from. It's a collaborative art. When one person's voice becomes so much more important than anyone else's. The director is the auteur usually, but to be in a project that big with that many people involved and think that any one person can take credit for everything good in it, I just don't see where there could be anything more arrogant than that.
All right, so Willow, I'm going to put as a no.
Willow had an interesting follow-up too because Lucas got together with Chris Claremont, who wrote the bulk of the classic X-Men.
Yeah,
comics.
Classic comic writer, fans would know of.
And they made, huge. If you're a comic book fan, you should know who Chris Claremont is, just because of X-Men, pivotal superhero comic. But they actually wrote a trilogy of books based on Willow.
Oh yeah,
as
that's
a follow-up.
Right.
And I read the first one, and it's real bleak and real dark, and mostly it's just story by Lucas, and then Claremont actually wrote the books. Is the way it broke down, but it wasn't fun for me at all to read the book, so I didn't read past the first one.
So that would not have made a good movie then?
I don't think so. I think if you do like Willow, I think it missed the heart of what made Willow fun, because it was kind of lighthearted and it was a fun adventure, and I enjoy that kind of thing. So I think as an action adventure kind of movie, there's a lot to like about Willow. You should watch it. But as far as the next big thing as being up there with a Star Wars or something else, it lacks that originality.
Were they trying?
And the books didn't really have it at all, I don't think.
I think he was trying to do the Tolkien thing where they had the Hobbit. It was kind of fun,
it totally
lighthearted.
Like it was
and
a trilogy.
They go to they go to Lord of the Rings, which is more adult-oriented.
Yeah, it has that exact feel. And that makes it even worse because it's like, who cares?
So, yes, I think it's been done.
Yeah, better. But he also, in 1988, the same year he made Willow, was a part of, and this is probably an in-name only sort of thing, part of a movie called Tucker, The Man in His Dream. Have you seen this with Jeff Bridges?
Is that about a guy that makes a car or something?
Yeah, Tucker, back in the days, invented a car that was actually better. And he tried to put it out himself, and all the big car companies tried to get rid of him. And they did actually end up driving him out of business. But the Tucker was like the greatest car of its day, and there's only a few in existence in the world right now. And they still work. And they're very, very valuable.
Yeah,
but this is it's a biopic of his life and the development of that, and if Jeff Bridges is in it, and it's just a testament to this guy as a dreamer trying to do something, and you can see where the admiration is there from Lucas to him, and it was directed by Francis Ford Coppola.
Oh, that's cool.
But if you haven't seen,
I didn't know that Lucas had anything to do with that.
You see Lucas, if you see Lucas involved in a peripheral way in a movie, then you can bet it's because it's a movie made by one of his buddies. That's one of the things I like about all the old school directors is like you see Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola working together. You see Lucas and Spielberg working together. Lucas actually has some kind of producer credit, like an uncredited producer work on Body Heat, which was written and directed by Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote The Empire Strikes Back and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I didn't know that.
So yeah, you see them pop up because these guys, they get into each other's stuff. Lucas apparently screened Star Wars for Spielberg and De Palma and Coppola back in the day, and they actually gave him notes before he ever, before he did the final cut, and he actually recut it based on some of the things they said.
Yeah, maybe you should have done that again.
Which is another thing. Exactly, which is another thing you wish that he would still do, because that's gold.
Yeah, well, because if you watch the Star Wars DVDs and they have those deleted scenes, some of that stuff is awful. Like the part where they blow up the Alderaan and Princess Leia standing there, and in the movie they cut there, But in the originally, she turns around to them and she says, "And you call yourselves human?" and it's so over the top and cheesy. You're like, oh, thank God they cut that out.
Well, it's because someone like Brian De Palma or Coppola or somebody looked at that and said, ooh, no.
Yeah, this is embarrassing. Let's not do this.
He should have done that in Revenge of the Sith, where Vader's leaning back going, no!
Yeah.
That's like the most laughable scene. Like, we were laughing in the theater, and I liked that movie, but we were laughing in the theater when that happened. So that clearly was not the response they were going for.
I don't think they were going for funny.
For a first-time audience trying to get caught up in the story, to just...
At the climactic moment, too, the actual apex.
At the biggest moment of the entire trilogy. Like, this is the thing that's supposed to bring it. And just leaning back, a hand in the air.
No.
Lord. No.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah, anyway. Not looking to bash it. Let's move on.
Yeah. I keep saying I do enjoy the new trilogy. I think, Episode 2 is one of my favorite Star Wars movies, like of all 6. I really enjoyed Episode 2.
We need to do a Star Wars episode sometime, because we'll get into it.
We will. We're working up, because you can see the reason we don't is because this is the non-Star Wars episode and we're still talking about it. We gotta, like I said, the importance of boundaries. We gotta rein ourselves in on this stuff. Because good God, that'll be the episode we'll have to screen for people and say, cut that. Because we'll just talk forever. There's really only one more non-Star Wars movie of note that I wanted to mention. And this is a movie called Radioland Murders, which another reason, besides the fact that I really like it, is also written by Willard Height, Gloria Katz, and a couple other people. So these two, they pop up, usually in the Lucas movies that don't do well.
Yeah.
These two pop up. Although we should remember that they were a big part of American Graffiti.
I gotta say, I've seen Radioland Murders, and I don't remember it at all. So it's a forgettable movie, I guess. For me.
I guess, for you. But I like it. It's got Brian Benben in it, who I like a lot. And it sells me real well, and this is another thing that Lucas is into also that I really identify with him, is he has this love for classical radio. Especially radio drama, which I do too. And that's the whole movie is set, in one of these old time radio theaters. And there's a murder, obviously, and that's where the story commences. But it's such a fun, if you like, the golden age of radio and old time radio dramas and serials and stuff like that. Another good movie that I didn't expect to like that I did like a lot was the Garrison Keillor, The Prairie Home Companion movie.
Oh, you did like that?
I did like it, and I'm not a big fan of Prairie Home Companion as a show. But I think it sold me better to see, because the movie is a fictional story, but set in the same, backdrop of them making this show, this old-timey radio show in the modern day, which I do respect a lot. I do respect what Garrison Keillor does. But I just never was a big fan of the content of the show.
Well, that's interesting.
But my mind could be changed. I do like it when they do the bad jokes. He'll do a tribute to bad jokes sometimes on the show. And that speaks to my heart. I like nothing better. Clearly, if you've heard this show.
For some reason, I've always thought that Lucas had something to do with that Days of Thunder movie. I'm looking at it now on IMDb, and I don't see anything there.
No. You know why you think that?
Because he likes racing and stuff?
Because he likes racing. If you watch Days of Thunder, you really, and compare in your mind and contrast to the final sequence in Star Wars, you really do see where he's a fan of that kind of stuff. Because it's really, the trench sequence in that is really just like a NASCAR race in space. Which he tried to do also in Episode 1 and didn't work at all.
Oh, Lord.
But because it was an actual race, when you lose the metaphor.
Yeah, and I just don't.
It's not when it's actually a stock car race in space.
Maybe
it's not fun.
If you think that racing is fun to watch, and I know millions of people do, so don't send us emails talking about how we're crazy because we don't like NASCAR. Maybe if that's the case, you watch the podcast race. Maybe you're thinking, yeah, this is fun. It's like watching a race. But for those of us that aren't really into watching races, that don't, that's like 30 minutes of movie that is so unnecessary.
It's a completely irrelevant centerpiece for the film. It's obviously and then that's what drags the whole movie down, because it's obvious that's what he wants to do. That's what he wants to focus on. But it is in all ways irrelevant to the story, and it's so contrived that it's an element of the story at all.
It has nothing to do with what's going on.
You'd think that a couple of Jedi could find an easier way off the planet.
And when a galactic war at stake, they spend days and days talking to this kid. Oh yeah, he's got some midichlorians. We'll grab them and go. Why do you have to? What's this race about?
Get out of here, man. You got lightsabers. Yeah, maybe the hummingbird guy doesn't. You can't use the Jedi mind trick on him, but you could cut his wings off with your lightsaber and just haul ass.
It's like, well, we can't. I don't want to get into it. Never mind. Forget it. We'll do this on the Star Wars episode.
Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. We ran out of non-Star Wars stuff, and here we go. Didn't take long. But I think, if you look at the body of work, accepting things like Howard the Duck and Captain EO, there's a lot of, especially in the early days, a lot of kind of fun movies. He's finally getting, according to IMDb, he's finally getting around to doing a project that he was going to do, I want to say like 10 years ago, called Red Tail.
Sounds like a Disney movie.
Which is a tribute.
Does it involve squirrels?
Well, it's a tribute to the Tuskegee Airmen. It's about the Tuskegee Airmen back in, I think, World War II.
Interesting.
But it all obviously would be a lot of fun because I'm sure there'd be a lot of fun aerial combat.
Well, all right then.
Which brings me to an interesting note. One movie that Lucas almost made was Apocalypse Now.
Oh, really? What do you?
Back in the day, he almost directed that movie.
How did that happen?
Well, he was, like all the same guys were on all the same projects back those days. He and Francis Ford Coppola were very big, and they were talking about who's going to make this movie, and Lucas was sort of on board, and then Coppola started talking about, and I really want to go to Vietnam and all that, and Lucas is like, well, good luck with that. I wanted to make like a war movie. You're talking about like going out into the swamp and losing your mind. You can have that, and that's basically the way it played out.
That'd have been an interesting turn.
It would have been a very different film. But it's just interesting when we sometimes think that because he became very, he got very, very rich and very commercial, that, you forget that he was an influential filmmaker before all that.
Yeah.
And could have been an even more influential filmmaker if he'd kept making movies. If he'd never been... not that I would ever want him to have not made Star Wars, but I kind of wish that I could see the movies that Lucas would have made if he'd never stumbled into that success. It would have been a real interesting filmography. I know we give him a hard time, but it comes from love, man. I really do. I have nothing but respect for George Lucas in his Star Wars and non-Star Wars exploits. And when he does something that I consider to be bad and I criticize, it's because I have such a huge amount of respect for what he has done with film and what I think he's capable of. If he falls short of it, I feel like it's my personal duty to say so. Because nobody in his inner circle apparently will point it out. I wish he'd hire guys like us.
Yeah. What else does he have coming up? Anything else? Is he still looking to direct, or is he kind of semi-retired now?
He talked when he finished the Star Wars trilogy that he was going to get back into directing and do small films, and I got kind of excited about it because, you could tell he sort of has the, the yearning to do that sort of weird experimental underground filmmaker stuff.
Well, they're also talking about doing this Star Wars TV show. Is he going to have anything to do with the writing on that, or?
Who knows? I'm sure he'll be involved. I'm kind of hoping not as much, though, because I would like to see him get into some more non-Star Wars stuff. Like when they said he was going to do Red Tails again, I was like, oh, well, that's good, because that's the kind of stuff I want to see. There's got to be another Star Wars in there. Maybe not another huge commercial thing, but another brilliant Indiana Jones waiting to come out.
You know what it is?
That's why
Star Wars.
I feel like they're wasting their time making Star Wars and Indiana Jones.
Star Wars he made because when he was a kid he loved Flash Gordon movies or whatever. Indiana Jones he made because when he was a kid he loved those kind of action serials. So what he needs to do is tap into the stuff he loved as a kid and go with that. That's where the purity is. That's what the magic is.
Find something else, yeah.
When he tries to do something else.
What? Yeah. Do you not love anything? Have you run out of the things you love?
Maybe.
Well, I mean, he could definitely hang up his hat and not feel bad about things.
Oh, yeah. Who are we to talk?
Obviously,
right?
There doesn't have to be another. Yeah, really. There doesn't have to be another Star Wars in there, but I would like to see something original come out of him again. Because I do. Sometimes I think with him making the new Star Wars movies, it was a little forced, and Funny. No pun intended on that.
It'd be nice if he were to retire, for it to be on a high note, to create something that critics love and it's a big hit. To go out like that, I think would be good for him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about the idea of a Star Wars TV show, live action, and then making a Clone Wars like kind of show seems fun. Although I'm going to say this, I'm just going to say it. They should make a Han Solo TV show, and they should just hire Nathan Fillion to play Han Solo.
Man, that would be so awesome.
Wouldn't that be the greatest thing ever? And it could have Chewbacca in it.
Oh.
Screw all this other stuff. That's what they should be working on. Forget Jedis. Who wouldn't sign on for that? That would be a great show.
And I'd watch it. And I don't
Fillion,
watch TV.
Get with your people. Get Lucas on the phone.
Somehow you could have Lando involved, because they used to know each other.
Oh my God, that would be so great. How awesome would that be? They're ruined. They're focusing on all the wrong things. I'm not curious about the Clone Wars anymore. Just want to see young Han Solo.
Yeah, if they just stop and think, who is by far the most popular of the Star Wars characters? What do people want to see? It's not the
I really
Clone
think
Wars.
that comes to the lack of vision for Lucas again. I really think in a lot of ways he resents Han Solo.
Yeah.
I don't believe he ever intended Han Solo to be a pivotal character.
Yeah.
Han Solo, and that's what makes Han Solo so awesome. It's like even outside of the story, he's a renegade. Like, he's the underdog in every way. Han Solo even presented himself as a fictional character above what his mandate in the story required.
Yeah.
He's the ultimate rebel.
Well, he became the hero, even though just like in the movie, he wasn't. He was supposed to be the scoundrel, and he came back at the end as the hero. The character himself became the star. Anyways,
by the time they started tweaking it, he got the girl and everything.
Trying to restrain myself. No more Star Wars.
I know.
Well, hit up your. You got the Johnny drama.
We do have a Johnny drama.
Johnny drama, Eddie Burns.
Congratulations, Johnny.
Drama, Jimmy Woods.
I have drama. I mean, you guys do.
There is the man. There is the legend. But only one who walks a certain career path has earned the right to become known as a real-life Johnny Drama.
Thank you, God.
Victory!
And it's a different way, a more modern Johnny Drama. I don't want to just pull him out of the 70s and the 80s, but this is Tony Todd. Do you know him by name?
Not by name.
Because you know him, but you may have seen him in the Night of the Living Dead remake, or not. But you probably know him best from Candyman and the Final Destination movies.
Tony Todd?
Tony Todd, he's the Candyman.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He's like he's like the dark shadow of Michael Biehn, because he has the big gritty voice too. Everything he says is really scary.
Well, because he's got that awesome voice, yeah.
And he's giant. He's a big, mean-looking dude. And that's probably what cinched him as a Klingon when he portrayed Mr. Worf's brother in Star Trek: The Next Generation. But my favorite role ever is his portrayal of Marine turned mercenary in The Rock.
Yeah.
We tried to talk about this before, but we didn't get around to it.
And The Rock just keeps popping up.
Because The Rock is an awesome movie. You were talking about a movie that's fun. The Rock is fun. That's one of my favorite action movies, because it makes no sense. Besides Michael Biehn and his big speech where he gets killed by Ed Harris. Also as a Navy SEAL. Good Lord, how many times has he played a Navy SEAL? Not, of course, even including Navy SEALs.
Yeah. You might have heard of it, Navy SEALs.
Yeah, he was one of the Navy SEALs. But Tony Todd's one of the bad guys, and he ends up just everything he says. The scene at the end with him and Nick Cage, where Nick Cage is like, "Do you like the Elton John song Rocket Man?" And he's like, "I don't like soft ass shit." Because that's what you'd say if someone just asked you, "Do you like Elton John?"
No, you gotta mention they're trying to kill each other at this point. They're not just having coffee.
They're circling each other in a lighthouse. "Do you like Rocket?"
And he's got a knife out.
I don't like soft ass shit. Yeah, he's got a giant like Rambo knife out. I just asked because it's you. You're the Rocket Man. and then he shoots him with a missile. It's like the worst action hero line ever. But that's one of the charming elements of it, that Nicolas Cage at that time wasn't doing action movies. He's been in a bunch now, but it was a fun juxtaposition at that time because he's such a big goon.
And he's been in.
Oh yes,
wow. Was he? He
Now
was
it
in
seems
The
like it's
Crow.
all he does.
I didn't know that.
I
looking
don't
at his
recall
list.
him in The
He's-
Crow. I saw that on IMDb also, and I can't think of who he played in The Crow.
He was in Jake and the Fat Man.
If you notice,
Cop Rock.
as with a lot of, oh my God, see that by itself would be
And
enough.
Matlock.
For those of you who don't remember Cop Rock, this was a show where it was a gritty crime drama by Stephen Bochco, who did like Hill Street Blues and NYPD Blue and all these big cop shows. Except every now and then they would just sing.
Man,
It was the greatest show. Is there not a Cop Rock DVD?
I don't know.
Because if there ain't, there ought to be.
He was in MacGyver,
that was
Night
awesome.
Court, Kate and Allie.
As
Really?
all Johnny dramas have been in all
Kate
TV
and
shows.
Allie? Simon and
As
Simon.
a great Johnny drama, he has been in just about every TV show
He
you
was
can
in
think of.
Beastmaster, like 15 different Star Treks, X-Files.
He was in Beastmaster 3,
It says,
and I won't hold that
it
against
says
him.
Law and Order, but I don't count that because I've been in Law and Order.
Well, of course.
He was in Xena. Yeah, he's been in every nerd thing imaginable. Hercules.
Oh, he did it. Because he's a big scary dude. He's been in the Buffy and Angel shows.
Smallville. Yeah, he's done a lot more TV than I knew about. I just knew him from Candyman pretty much and Little Things.
He's everywhere. I love Tony Todd, but he's a total Johnny drama.
He was in Beverly Hills 90210. How awesome is that? He's really been a wide range of things.
He goes where the work is, man, like all good Johnny dramas do.
He was in a Dave Matthews music video.
How weird. And you said you didn't like Soft Ass.
Yeah, you lying sacker.
Yeah. You're the Rocket Man.
He's going to be on Charmed Monday, November 12th.
Awesome. He's going to get the Charmed ones in yet another outfit.
That's today.
What are the Charmed ones going to dress up like now? Because that's all that show's ever about. This week, they're mermaids. Next week, they're French maids. It's like, come on. It's like, is this a show?
How many different kind of maids can we do?
For real? Is this even a show
Lemonades.
anymore? Or is this just happening in my mind?
I think that show actually got canceled 6 years
This
ago,
week.
Sean. Or you've got a very rich fantasy
I've never
life.
heard of Charmed. That's true. There's no such person as Alyssa Milano, like Elvira. She's spawned from my mind.
All right.
Remember the episode where they dress up like Valkyries? Like, Sean, I don't know what you're talking about. It's pretty awesome.
Okay.
I think we're done.
I think so. So, how did
This,
Lucas
like,
come
much
out?
like Charmed, this show has been over for much longer than I thought.
How did Lucas come out? Did we keep score? He came out all right.
Well, we can tally it, I think. If you imagine, if you're going to go thumbs down, I'll go with yours. You came out thumbs down on THX 1138. We both came up thumbs up on American Graffiti. Let's not count Captain EO. I guess Howard the Duck will be thumbs down since he doesn't even like it.
Yeah.
I say thumbs down on Labyrinth, but most people like it. And I do like Muppets. You say thumbs down on Willow, which I can't really argue with, even though I like it. I say thumbs up to Tucker, but you haven't seen it. I think thumbs up to Rayland Murders, but you don't remember it. So that didn't work out too good, really.
Yeah, mostly thumbs down.
I was either against it or completely ambivalent.
Well, in all fairness, we did omit the two of my favorite series of all time. So I guess if you omit the two things that have shaped my life incredibly since I was a young child, then yeah, he's so forth.
Yeah, aside from you making some of the most awesome movies of all time, you're pretty crappy. So I guess he didn't do too bad.
No, he didn't do too bad. I think a net positive.
I would argue that even given if this were his body of work, omitting those, I would still say that this is a body of work to be proud of.
Yeah, well,
because there's a lot of innovation and originality here too.
Yeah.
And I think actually that interrupted by some of those successes might have, He may have come up with ideas that were gold and bounced them off people, and they kind of poo-pooed it in his mind because it didn't sound like another Star Wars.
Yeah, that may be true.
And that may be how he got talked into making stuff like Willow. Where it's like, this is going to be your next Star Wars.
Yeah, there's definitely some truth to that, I bet.
He could have had his next American Graffiti in mind and mentioned it to someone, and they were like, nah, that sounds kind of stupid.
Yeah, they don't want to see that. They want to
tell.
see stuff with action, adventure, and
Yeah, where's the action? I don't see the iconic characters of that. You should make something about midgets with magical powers. That's what people
well,
like.
that's true. Star Wars has a lot of midgets in it.
God bless him. If it weren't for Lucas, the midgets would never work. Maybe that's just the midgets saying stuff to him. Like, what do you think about this idea, Warwick?
Yeah, they just kept.
Have you thought about making
His
a
early
dwarf
years
movie?
were deeply influenced by the midget lobby.
Yeah, exactly.
We need
He
another
was
movie,
hanging out with
Lucas.
little people too much.
We haven't worked in 2 years.
We want what you promised us.
Leprechaun came along
That would be
and
funny.
saved him.
What's with this Ewok cartoon crap?
You couldn't live act that?
Yeah, where's Ewoks 3?
All right.
It's like, well, after Battle for Endor, I didn't think there was anywhere to go with it.
Endor's got thousands of stories on it. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know. After we broke out Wilford Brimley in the second film, felt like we tapped the well.
All right, y'all. Well, this has been TV Ate My Dinner. You can check us out at tv8mydinner.com. That's where you'll find past episodes and stuff like
You
that.
can email us at feedback@tv8mydinner.
Please do.
We would like your input.
Definitely. Also, you can check out darkcrazy.com, and that's Sean's publishing site. If you have some work you'd like to get published, talk to Sean. That's a good place to start. Go to bellswake.com at some point if you want. That's the band I'm in. We've got music for free on there. Go to gregstarks.com. Greg's not in this particular episode, but you guys know who Greg is. And if you want to know more about Greg, go to gregstarks.com and you'll learn.
Yeah, you want to peer into the secret life of where he is when he's not making the
Yes.
show.
It's a fascinating place, I assure you.
What, 5 minutes before the program, someone sets off the Starkey signal.
Yeah, he looks up in the sky
He's
and
gotta
sees
roll.
a big S broadcast. He's like, I gotta go do something.
Trouble in the city.
I suddenly remembered I have to work late. He takes off.
Yeah, I left the iron on.
Why does his car go 200 miles an hour? I don't know. It's kind of weird. So anyway,
For real.
did it
See how he's wearing
did
a
it just
cape?
sprout wings and fly? I think. So check that out.
Pretty awesome.
And I guess that's about it. My name's Brooks.
I'm Sean.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Dog crazy.